Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of GOTR, Google Trends Investing, with myself, Nolan, from the Dumb Money Discord community. So please feel free to like, subscribe, or dislike if this is going to be a little bit different episode in terms of using Google Trends data to not necessarily look at one specific stock and the growth measurements in terms of revenue, new users, relative search volume compared to a competitor that I've been doing with Square, Peloton, Roku. I did Collector's Universe last week or 2 weeks ago. Sorry about missing a week in there. But I'm going to actually try to get an insight into the election in terms of forecasting the election. That was really vital in terms of winning the 2016 election, which was the battleground that is the suburbs. And there's something in the suburbs that people that support a candidate, some decide to use. So it's trying to measure. And again, this ends up measuring for more people that are very strongly one way or the other in the suburbs, but it was an important battleground, and I think some of you that are driving around the suburbs can attest to what you see when you drive around there, and that's lots of these yard signs. So I'll get to what I ultimately decided on the best way to try to gauge this, and I'll explain some of the reasons why, but I do encourage you guys to take this idea and run with it as you may. But there's definitely been some interesting ones when we end up looking state by state, so let's get in there. I'll start off with the table setter trends chart, which is just yard signs in blue, yard sign singular in red, Trump yard in yellow, Biden yard in green, and then Hillary yard in purple. So I'm going to care about this recent window of time, but I also want to figure out how this ended up playing out last year to figure out what was the correlation from last year's results with what ended up being. So again, with an earnings report, I'm trying to find Google Trends that ends up, it's a kind of a mystery what the revenue is until you now see what the revenue ends up being, and you can figure out what the correlation was between this Google Trends you were looking for and what ended up being. Again, I was kicking myself for missing Invisalign this last time, where Google Trends for the word Invisalign near or Invisalign near me were way up. I think being remote, people are more comfortable putting in and taking out of your trays, your clear aligners there. So anyhow, let's talk about the Trump yard signs versus the Biden yard signs battle, and I guess last year's versus Hillary. So we're going to go state by state to dive in here. But when I went state by state, some of the Hillary yard ones lost, so I ended up having to go Hillary. I'll just, it'll make sense in a second here. So again, I ended up just using Hillary yard sign versus Trump yard sign, and you can end up seeing that it was a very tight battle last year. Again, that's across the whole U.S., so as the Electoral College goes, it doesn't matter if you win every single vote in California, it's still one electoral, or you get the whole electoral count of that. So we really care about where are those electoral ones up for grabs. So let's take a look at some certain states. I think I was going to do Florida, Pennsylvania, and Michigan to figure out how this played out last year. We see very tight last year, the correlation between Hillary, or 4 years ago, Hillary yard versus Trump yard. And we now see this year there is a slight edge to Biden. Again, putting this in context though, some people might already have their Trump signs from 4 years ago. They might have already had them ahead of time. Biden also had to win the primaries, so they had a kind of an edge. But if taking a look at what's going on recently, we definitely see the Biden yard edge of late. And I'm mic'd up through my USB here, so I'm going to use my keyboard up here to this. Let's go to Michigan next. And we'll tap the screen here. So going to Michigan next to see how this played out last year, or 4 years ago, we do see that Trump had a pretty noticeable lead over Hillary last year, or 4 years ago, for Trump yard sign over Hillary. So again, this maybe was less of a surprise actually of how this election played out 4 years ago. But you see now the Biden yard sign in Michigan is pretty big, although we do see in red Trump kind of storming back a little bit there of late. So again, we'll wait and see in 5 days once that comes out. And let's do Pennsylvania. And again, you guys can do more on your own, so I'll include some of these to begin using these Google Trends charts and play around with them. And I really do encourage you to add, subtract, add negatives on certain words. But here we are, Hillary yard sign. We do see that, again, Hillary had a lead in Pennsylvania last time, although towards the end there, we did see the Trump yard sign take, or I guess this is once the election already happened. So probably even more data would be to kind of bookend these ones and download this data, look at it, and you can. I guess that'll be a random tip. You can actually download the data here and play around with it per week. So if you want to go even further, please have at it. But yeah, so the Biden yard sign terms though to this point, and again, I think a lot of these ones actually I want to do is kind of how the 90 days looks on any of these ones. So here's another tip to play around with yourself, but here you can see in Pennsylvania, Biden yard sign has an edge. in, we'll go back to another battleground, which apparently North Carolina is a little more up for grabs than it had been originally projected there. But we see Biden with an edge in North Carolina. So again, if this is an indicator that there is a greater likelihood of Biden winning the suburbs, how does that change your portfolio? So I know Chris and the guys talk about being prepared, having a thesis attached to certain outcomes, and then you are prepared once that outcome happens. You can kind of immediately either sell if your position was based on that continuing or going a certain way, that you were saying, hey, there's an 80% or whatever the percentages end up being, that you decide on your own based on the data that you've been going through to await your portfolio based off of that risk. You're ready to go when that plays out. This is what I'm looking for. I can't come up with, but yeah. Anyhow, when it plays out, you're ready to go. So let me know if this had any thoughts for you. I had other tabs. If anything else I forgot that I wanted to make sure I go over. But it's interesting. I mean, if you can think of other ways, other combinations. I originally played with Trump sticker versus Biden sticker, but again, I really wanted to gauge, kind of narrowly focused on, is there a way to better understand who has an edge in the suburbs? And if this data shows, I think there is an edge that goes to Biden, but I mean, a lot of the polling has been putting, anyhow, I'll let you guys decide on how much you want to put weight behind 538 and other polling measures there. But if you like this kind of content, please let me know in the comments below. Give me a like, give me a subscribe, or give me a dislike. I know this was a different one, so I encourage the dislikes as well. So thank you so much, and hopefully I'll talk to you next time. And remember, let the trend be your friend, and come out to vote next on Tuesday. Or if not already vote, you probably can vote right now. I probably should vote. I haven't voted. Bye.